Boom.
Alex.
Hey, Tony.
How are you? I'm excited. Today we get to actually interview our first Olympian, Sonny Webster. This guy I'm really, really excited about. He was a gold medal winner in 2011 in the Commonwealth Youth Championships. And then he went on and represented Great Britain in 2016 in the Rio Summer Olympics. Sonny Webster, how are you, mate?
Very well. Thank you very much for having me, guys.
Yeah, it's good to have you here, man.
Now, this is the first time I've met you, mate. Alex knows you quite well. You guys have got a bit of a connection there. So I'm going to enjoy getting to know this Instagram legend where you've got more followers than I think. You know, if the Dalai Lama had a following on Instagram, it wouldn't even come close to you, all right?
Does he, though? Have you checked?
I don't know, but
I think someone has to check this. Fact check, Adrian, please. Can you put like a little thing at the bottom if it does?
No, mate, thank you so much for coming on board. And you were in the 2016 Rio Olympics, and it's amazing. You don't get to speak to many Olympians, and you've actually achieved that. So I'd love to know, what was your journey as an athlete going to the Olympics? Yeah,
so I mean, for me going right back, I guess my first memory of the Olympic Games was being in it as a kid, sat in maths class. And the PE teacher come running into the class and said, "Look, Sonny, you're gonna have not to me, to the teacher. Said we're gonna have to stop the class for a minute. We need to turn the TV on because there's only one TV in the school." And all the doors slid open and the rest of the kids come in that were in my school. This was in Reading, in the UK. And they flicked the TV on right at the point where David Beckham and Kelly Holmes were jumping up and down, hugging each other. And I was like, what's this? What's this about? And it was just as London had won the bid to host the 2012 Olympic Games. And at the time, like as a kid, I didn't really know much about what the Olympics was, but seeing the excitement, the expression on these guys' faces, I was like, whatever that is, I want to be a part of it. And I was always a keen golfer as a kid. My dad was massively into golf. I've still got videos of me as a kid down the driving range trying to hit balls when I'm about 5 years old. My dad's screaming at me, "Sonny, it's not straight, it's not right." So I've always been into sport. But like I said, and after that time at school where we found out what the Olympics was, I tried lots of different sports, athletic sports, and I was kind of, as a kid, one of those guys that was good at everything, but not great at anything. You know, I wasn't an expert at anything. And we ended up moving from where that school was in Reading down to Devon. And naturally moving school, not knowing anyone, I used to be a bit of a loner. So naturally at lunchtime, I used to go and sit in the weightlifting gym and watch people do weightlifting. And after about 2 weeks of being sat there watching these kids give weightlifting a go, I got to know a few of them and I started to take the mickey out of them a little bit and be a bit of distraction, I guess, in the class. And the teacher came up to me after 2 weeks and said, "Look, Sonny, you've been here 2 weeks now, taking the piss out of these kids giving it a go. Why don't you ever come and go yourself?" And I was like, nah, it's not really for me, miss. I'm a weightlifter. I'm a golfer. And she said, "Right, you got detention now tomorrow lunchtime. You got to come have a go." So I was like, damn it. Like 2 weeks in school, I had my first detention. So the following lunchtime, I went along, and purely because I'd sat and watched weightlifting done wrong and done right for 2 weeks, I had a pretty good idea of what I needed to do. And I ended up beating everyone on my first day. And like I said, I don't think it was from being like naturally talented at it. I think it was purely from sitting and watching what I needed to do. And after the first session, the coach turned around to me and said, "Look, Sonny, you got detention now every lunchtime until you want to be here." And that was how I spent the rest of my lunchtimes in school.
Yep. Were you a big kid or a little kid?
I was 44 kilos when I started weightlifting. I'm now 94. So yeah, I guess I was a smaller kid, short and chubby.
Oh, really? So okay, you know, and then you started doing it. And when did you actually fall in love with the sport?
I guess it's the thing that's great about Olympic weightlifting is you never complete it. You never win. There's always another kilo to put on the bar. And for me, what I love about the sport of weightlifting is it is very individual. And I've always been an individual sports person myself. For me, if you lose yourself. You've got no one else to blame. And likewise, if you win. And what I love about that type of sport is in terms of what you get out is what you put in. And the harder you work, the harder, the better your results will be. And I loved that because there was definitely times when I played rugby as a kid where, I wanted to get up at 5 a.m. and go to school and train for 2 hours before school. Other kids didn't. I wanted to spend every lunchtime at school practicing my weightlifting instead of kicking the football around the playground. other kids didn't, and that enabled me to really be as dedicated as I want to achieve what I wanted to do. So I guess I fell in love with it very quickly.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, cool. It sounds like you were a bit of a troublemaker. It sounds like you were just sitting there, just causing a bit of trouble at the sides there until they pulled you in, huh?
Yeah, I was definitely, I guess, to put in a better way, inquisitive as a kid, and I always questioned authority, and always wanted to have a deeper understanding of why I was doing something and what I was doing it for. And after about, I guess, the first sort of 2 to 4 months of competing, I got called up to represent Great Britain. So very early on into my career.
Wait a second, how long?
After about 2 to 4 months, I was competing my first national championships, and then was called up to
I like how you say this so casually. In the first 2 to 4 months, I get a phone call. Great Britain goes, hey, you know what, Sonny, we've been watching you, mate, for the last month or so, maybe a week, 3 days, mate. You're good enough. You're in. Well, that is amazing. Can I just say that is like you got kids that have been training all their lives, just like when you start off golf and you start off early, mate, and you're there.
Yeah, well, I mean, weightlifting, it is a very small sport, and it was even smaller when I first started. So there wasn't a massive pool, but I went to these competitions, and, it was great for me because, like I said, I wasn't a very outgoing kid. I was quite shy. And all of a sudden, within this school, I was going to these competitions. I was the national champion, the British record holder. And it really boosted my confidence. And if anything, got a little bit cocky. And was then selected to go to my first international championships, which was in Pavia in Italy. And I loved that opportunity that I was going to be able to travel with my sport. And I went there, I thought, yeah, I'm going to win this one too, like no problem. Rocked up, I made all my lifts, I broke the British records, and I finished 22nd out of 23 people.
What?
A bit of
you broke all the records, and you still finished 22nd.
Yeah, and for me, that was one of the best things that happened to me early on in my career, because it made me realize very quickly that it wasn't about being the best in the country or being the best in, your gym if you were going to be able to compete on that most elite level.
Yeah.
And that was very grounding for me. And I definitely went away from that competition starting to think, right, now I need to work a lot harder than the rest of these guys. It's not about just, casually going through this, being better than the rest of the guys in my gym. And that was definitely a turning point for me in realizing how hard I needed to work if I was going to get to the Olympic Games.
Yeah, I think there's So I think there's like a difference between, it's so important kind of who you compare yourself to, right? Because that really pushes you so much further. Like yesterday I was having a chat with someone, and he's the best person in his company for sales. I'm like, that's cool, but are you the best in the world yet? Because like he started to relax a bit. He's like, I'm pretty much done now because I'm the best in the company. I'm like, how good's your company, first of all, if you've been doing it for like a year and he's the best? So I was all about, trying to find the people to compare yourself to. And I think it's such a cool thing that at such an early age, you're like, wow, I'm the best in Britain, but I'm the worst in the world. Yeah. Sorry, the second last.
Last. I missed about there. The only reason why I wasn't last is because the other guy bombed out, so he didn't even make a total.
Oh, okay, cool.
How old are you at this stage?
So I would have been about 15 years old at this stage. No, I would have been younger than that, 13.
Yep.
Yeah, about 13 years old at this point.
So you go in there and you come, was it 26th?
22nd.
22nd, sorry, 22nd. You're a 15-year-old. Your ego was pretty healthy at that point prior to going into this competition. You think you're going to win, you're going to absolutely smash it. And then you go in there and you just get your bum handed to you on a platter, right? How do you crawl out of that? Who was around you? What went through you? Because you could have quit at 15. You were.
Yeah.
The best in Britain.
I think for me, I was definitely inspired by being able to travel and see other parts of the world. And that was like, right, I want to do that again. I want another go. Right. And one thing I really noticed was because you'd go away for a week, you'd compete one day, the rest of the time you were training, going in the training halls. And I'd been to 5 or 6 of these internationals now, done that, and sat in the training halls and watched other people train that were kicking my ass all the time and going, hang on a minute, I'm not doing what they're doing, or I'm not doing that exercise, or I'm not squatting as much as they are. And I went back to my coach and I said, look, these guys are kicking my ass. I'm not doing the same as them.
Yep.
Why? And the coach was a teacher, like I said at the time, and didn't really like me questioning the authority. And we ended up falling out. Yeah. And that was then a very big sort of point in my career where it was like, that was the easy point to give up if I was going to, because there was very few coaches that knew weightlifting and could teach it. And the next nearest place that I could go to train, an elite club, was almost 3-hour drive away. I was 15 years old. So that was out the question. So I was coming up to 15 years old now, end of year 6, and it was like college, what am I going to do studying wise? And I ended up I said to my dad, look, Dad, I want to move to Bristol to go and work with this weightlifting coach and continue with my weightlifting. And my dad was like, hang on a minute, son. You're not going to just move up to Bristol and do weightlifting. So I went away for a couple of weeks and went on the computer, and then ended up finding this golf academy in Bristol. So I was like, you know what, Dad, I want to don't forget about the weightlifting stuff. I want to go to Bristol to do the golf academy.
He knows his story now, right?
Yeah. And he was like, oh, okay then, well, you can go and spend 6 months up there, see how you get on, and then we'll see where it goes from there. So off I went, 15 years old, and moved up to Bristol to work with this next coach and study alongside my lifting. But I think for me as an academic, I never liked to study too hard, and I did what I needed to do to get through.
Yep.
And I very much played the system. I knew that if I did certain subjects, I'd get more points that would get me into the right college. And I knew if I did this subject, it was easy. I'd get the most points to get into that university. So it was kind of like a bit of a game that allowed me to continue with my weightlifting career, really.
And so this is now, of course, age 15, 16? 15,
16, yeah.
And then when did you go to the Olympics? Like what age?
22.
22. So what was the part in between? If we can have a condensed version of that story,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there was like a lot of hard work and probably some struggles in there.
Yeah, definitely. So for me, after that time, I moved and managed to stay in Bristol. I missed out on the 2012. I missed out on the 2012 Olympics by 1 kilo, which was heartbreaking for me. But I was only 18 at the time. Again, it was an amazing learning point for me, because one thing I noticed that I would train nine times a week, 2-3 hours a day, and I knew that no one was working harder than me in the gym. Mm-hmm. But I never really believed in psychology or speaking to someone would actually be able to help me improve. I was very much in my approach with everything that I've always done. It's definitely something that I've learned in business, that no, I can do this by myself, and I don't need anyone's help. And cut long story short, I guess I missed out on that time at the 2012 Olympics. I went to see a psychologist, started chatting to them, and it was really nice having an objective view or someone to look in from the outside, because we know as with business, you don't see things that are happening so close around you sometimes because it's so close to you. Someone else looks in, spots the most simplest thing, you're like, why didn't I see that? Because you're on top of it. And this guy pointed out some very key things. He was like, imagine you're training like a spider's web, and each segment of the spider's web is an element of your performance. And he said, so obviously that segment that's, with your training is full. You can't train any harder. You train 9 times a week. Great. But he said, imagine the other segment's recovery. Imagine the other segment's sleep, nutrition, all these other areas outside of purely what I was doing in the gym that I wasn't focusing on or wasn't spending enough time on. And that really was like a wow moment for me, because I was like, I had such a short period between that point and my next major competition, which was the Commonwealth Games, that I was like, right, I started focusing on these areas and I made massive improvements without working any harder in the gym. And I was like, this is great. And after the disappointment of missing out on 2012, I ended up qualifying then for the Commonwealth Games in 2014. And that was like the next best thing to the Olympics. And it was amazing. I went there and I ended up finishing 5th. And again, I was so excited and happy with that. But I came away from that competition, I was like, why did you just go there to just be there? I didn't tell myself that I was good enough to win a medal. I just kind of resigned to the fact that I was always used to get my ass kicked. So it was like 22nd, 23rd. And I was never really bothered about winning. But I didn't go into that competition with the right approach, because had I truly believed that I could have won a medal then, I would have. But I didn't believe it.
Right, that's fascinating, that.
Yeah, and that was a massive change in my psychology, constantly learning from even, what seems like these victories or good days, I was still learning. And I think that's definitely something that I've learned throughout my life is, my favorite saying is the biggest lessons you learn are when you lose. Because when things are going well and when you have great days in the office, you go out, you celebrate, you have a good day in the gym, you go out and you're like, yeah, that was great, and you go and have a party. Whereas when you have a bad day, you go, shit, you sit down, you go, where'd that go wrong? Why wasn't I good today? Mm-hmm. But you don't do that the same way when you have a good day, which is the most important thing, because if you want to replicate that good day, you need to know why it happened. And it's not always easy to explain it, but it was definitely something that from then on, I started being conscious about what was causing me to perform well, what was causing me to be bad. And I then went on to qualify for the 2016 Olympics. And it was quite a funny story because throughout my career, I've had points in my life, like weightlifting wasn't a well-funded sport. And it was very hard to, stay sufficient living whilst training for a sport that you don't get paid for. You get very little recognition. And where my gym was in Bristol was a really rough, deprived area called St. Paul's. And I used to train this old church. And like I said, I was living off around £200, £250 a month, or $500 a month at the time. And it wasn't easy. And I walked into the car park of this gym one day, and there was this brand new white Porsche 911 Turbo S parked in the car park. And I was like, hang on a minute, this looks completely out of place. Like, what's it doing in this shitty gym? And I walked in, I said to my coach who's in reception, I said, Andy, whose car's that in the car park? And he goes, oh, his name's Jeff, he's in the main gym. And the gym was a room like this, big gym, and it was like all tall ceilings. And I just opened the door, 16 years old, and shouted, who's Jeff? And Jeff was on the other end of the room doing bench press, and he sat up and he goes, I'm Jeff, what do you want? First thing I said to him was, fancy sponsoring me? And he looked at me a little funny for a minute, and he goes, well, how much is it going to cost? And I was like, well, I'm living off like £250 a month, and I need to stay in a couple more months in Bristol to try and qualify for the Olympics. So I was like, well, call it £500, and then I was like, well, let's ask him for 600 and I'll get some new trainers. Like, so sure enough, I said £600, and he goes, looks at me a bit funny. He goes, what, a month? And my jaw hit the floor, bearing in mind I've been living off less than half of that. I went, yeah, okay then.
So you were saying just
one off. I just needed to stay, try and get to the Olympics. And then before you knew it, a couple hours later, he came out and goes, what's your bank details, lad? And the money went into my account. And that enabled to fund me then going forward to be able to train full time.
Wow, that's amazing.
And how long did that last for?
Do you know what? Jeff stuck by me, and Jeff for me, he's like my older brother now, and he's been a massive guidance to me, not only in life but in business as well. Jeff would, when he was younger, used to race BMX as a kid, and his parents never had enough money to send him to America to turn professional. So he ended up quitting what he was doing and setting up a telecoms company, and now he's a multimillionaire. And he saw me in a similar situation, had a dream of, going to the Olympic Games, but never had the financial backing, the support that I needed to achieve that goal. And he was in a position to help, so he did. And Jeff continued to support me all the way up to the Olympic Games, and then flew out to watch me compete in 2016. So he's been a massive part of my journey for sure.
There would have been an instant connection between you and Jeff straight away as soon as he heard your story. So I'm imagining, just like in Australia, BMX racing isn't that well funded. It's not even heard of.
Exactly. There was a lot of things that were likened together, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, right. So I was pretty lucky, And so you weren't shy for asking. That's pretty confident for someone to go out there. And we'll get to maybe how that affects kind of the success on Instagram, because you're pretty successful on Instagram. But we'll get back to that soon. But you don't seem to have much, it's a certain kind of person that will kind of smash open a door and go, who's Jeff?
Yeah.
Fancy sponsoring me.
But do you know what? I had so many points in my life, and I'd written so many letters up to that point asking for support, asking for sponsorship, and getting told no so much that you become desensitized to rejection and hearing the words no, that it was like, okay, I'll try again. And I think that was a massive point of it, because in my mind then, the worst thing he would have said was no.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So
Were you also getting fed up as well? Did you get to a point like, man, stuff, this guy's got a Porsche? I'm about here with my anger. Okay, stuff I'm just going to ask. I don't care. He's going to say yes or no, and it's going to be one of the two.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you're desensitized to it. So for me, it was like the worst scenario was no. And I've never been afraid from that point to ask, because that's it. If you don't ask, you don't get. And the worst thing someone's going to say is no. And if you're happy with getting rejected as a no, then fine.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, we've had a conversation on this podcast before about that exact thing, how most people are just scared to ask because they're scared of rejection.
Yeah.
But the biggest things like in, I guess, life are really hard, which is going to have a lot of struggle and a lot of rejection. So you're going to kind of have to get comfortable with hearing no,
for sure.
And so I guess, is there any advice which you would give to people who are kind of scared to start that journey? Because I remember the first time I started, I was like, oh my God, like I don't want to ask for stuff because if I say no, like I'm going to be rejected and that's like death. But like, is there anything which you think, or like, is it just a timing thing?
Yeah, no, I think it's I think it definitely is a passion thing. I had an end goal that I needed to get to, and I was going to do that, and it didn't matter how many times I needed to pinball to get there. It was it. And I think I guess my biggest bit of advice with that is accepting rejection, getting good at being told no, and understanding that is just, it's another traffic cone to go around. It's another obstacle, and then you go again. And I think for me, it's taking that first step and, getting used to receiving no of simple things, writing letters. I used to not get replies, and that was kind of your first thing to not getting a no.
Yeah,
so.
Complete ignorance. It's like, hello, can I please get a no at least,
Yeah, so I think, you definitely get used to it for sure. And it was definitely a big part of, I guess, me getting to the Olympic Games was not accepting that no and problem solving.
Yeah, I think that's it's a common. There's a couple of common things that I see like amongst all like entrepreneurs and successful people is that they've gotten comfortable like in hearing the word no, and they've gone through a lot of struggle and they've had to kind of overcome that. And I think that's kind of combined. You know what I mean? So, and the third one is that they're all kind of rebellious. They always ask why. Why this thing and why not that way and why are you telling me what to do and what that's. I
think if you're really gonna believe in something and being able to replicate it, you've got to know the why. You've got to have the understanding of to why you're doing something to really believe in it with whatever you do. And that's definitely a massive part of it for sure.
I love it that you were a kid and you actually, you first got introduced to the Olympic Games as a child watching David Beckham and jumping around and you're going, you didn't even know what that was, but you go, that's what I'm going to do, and you achieve it. So when you actually became an Olympian, did that come as a surprise to you or did you feel like you belonged in that arena?
I think it's such a difficult thing to describe in words because I've very much just brushed over that journey from A to B. There was points in my career where I was told that if I continued to weightlift, I was going to be in a wheelchair. I had a whole year off training where I couldn't lift at all because of my back. And there was points where, there was no funding, there was no support. So it's
and
difficult.
Support from mum and dad too, because dad's going, go pick up a golf stick.
Yeah, well,
well, look at Tiger Woods, right? It's like, you can be the next Tiger.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily a point of belonging. It was what I needed to do and achieve. And qualifying for the Olympics and being there, I sat and watched the opening ceremony of the Olympic Games 3 times. Every time I'm thinking, one day that's going to be me, one day that's going to be me. And then to walk out and it be you, it's a real it gives me goosebumps now to still reflect on it because it's everything I dreamed of and wanted to achieve. And I remember walking out onto the platform, and weightlifting is a very masculine, aggressive sport in nature. And I was stood there being called out, Sonny Webster, Team GB, what I always wanted to hear, the Olympic Games. And I stood on that platform and I was so close to crying. And it was such a weird emotion to experience in that moment because it was like all the good bits and all the bad bits throughout my whole career flashed in front of my eyes, all those obstacles that we've talked about, and it was all worth it. And every part of that journey was a lesson, and it was what made me want to be there and made me get there. And yeah, it was all worth it in the end. And you know, I did feel like I'd earned my right to represent the country and to be there for sure.
Bloody oath you did, mate. You put in such a hard effort for what you've just told me. So then you go on, you finish the Olympic Games, and now you're a business owner.
Yeah,
you're actually giving back, which is awesome. Now, have you used the same strategies, same mindset and drive to drive your successful business now?
Definitely. I've always had like a business mind in me. I mean, right back from when I was, I guess, 14 years old, so just before I moved out. Like I said, I was a keen golfer, and my dad wouldn't keep buying me all these golf clubs. So what I used to do is...
Wait, hold on a second. Your dad wanted you to play golf?
Yeah.
And never invested into you.
Well,
once, but was going to take all the credit for it.
Well, he wanted to. He was definitely involved in the golf, and I don't know. I think I took with that. I took my approach to my sport very single-mindedly and sort of got on with it. But when I was younger, I used to buy and sell golf clubs on eBay. That was my first business.
Really?
So I was always browsing eBay, looking at these golf clubs, and I'd see one that I knew was going for a cheaper price than what it was actually worth, so I'd buy it. Or I'd see someone post a photo of a golf club, but they'd marketed it terribly. The photos were dark, they were grainy, the packaging was shit. So I used to buy it at the cheap price, take it back to my house, use the good camera that I had and the good lighting and the good boxes from the golf shop that I used to play at, and repackage it and sell it on for $20 more or £20 more. And I started to collect up this money, and I ended up spending nearly $4,000 on a golf set that I'd saved up from £20.
Wow, that's amazing.
And that was my first business. And then when it comes to, you know, after my career, I guess there was always going to be a point of, right, how the hell do I make money out of weightlifting?
You work so hard to get to the Olympics, right? You get there, like you almost cry at the opening ceremony, like that all passes, and so now you've been working your whole life to this point, and then that point, like, you achieve it, which is fantastic, right? Because there's a lot of people who don't achieve it, but that's something which has been achieved by you now, right?
Yeah.
Now, what do you do? Like it must have been a challenge to figure out, of course, what's next. Do you know what I mean? Like, how did you say, well, that's what I want to do next? Or, you know what I mean? Or, you know, like that psychology behind it.
I think it's still scary now. I think, you know, during my time growing up around Jeff and having him support me, he showed me a lifestyle and a life that I wanted as well. And, you know, he helped me get a car, he helped me get all these things up while I was weightlifting, and I never wanted to go backwards. And after that point of competing at the Olympic Games, I came back from it, and I was like, yeah, it was a real down point, really, from the biggest high to your lowest very quickly. And I really lost my love with the sport. I didn't really feel like training. You come back from something like that, it's all wow, well, it's happening. Then afterwards, no one cares. And they don't.
It's sad to hear that.
Well, it's on TV. Yeah. It's the best thing ever. And as soon as it's done, and on your journey to that point, anyone that's cared about you, anyone that's important, you haven't got time for, because you're so dedicated to your goal. And I pushed everyone else, my family, my friends, closest people to me, away from me while I needed to achieve that, because there was no way anything was being prioritized ahead of my sport. And it's a very lonely time after that. And it was only through after, I guess, about 3 months of partying, having fun after the Olympics.
You're like, I'm going to have burgers now. Pizzas.
Yeah, exactly. That I was like, you know what am I going to do now? And my friend invited me, he owned a gym. And he said, Sonny, would you mind coming down to deliver a seminar to teach these people how to weightlift? And this whole time while I was, you know, before the Olympics or during qualifying for the Olympics, I was also studying at university. I studied a degree in sports performance of Olympic weightlifting. And I was like, okay, yeah, I guess I can coach. And I went along and delivered this seminar and talked about my journey to the Olympics, and then gave these people these technical cues and got paid at the end. And I thought, oh, this is good. And then, you know, more gyms started to say, Sonny, we come do seminars, and that became quite popular to the point where I spent the first 2 years just staying within the UK, delivering weightlifting seminars on the weekend, one-day events. And, you know, I was making sort of like $4,000 a weekend, and this was great because I was only like, you know, 22, and it was good. And then I was like, after a while, I was like, right, I'm going to travel and start doing these seminars internationally. And this was all through with the building of the Instagram that was enabling me to go to all these places to deliver these seminars. And that was kind of where business sort of was spurred for me. I set up my business and then was delivering these seminars. And that was before I even went online.
So just because there's a few parts in that story which I think we need to get into.
Yeah, for sure.
When, and just for the people that are listening, so I met you about, what was it, a year, 8 months ago, 6 months ago?
6 months ago,
I'm not good with time. About 6 months ago, it feels like much longer. At the time, you had 160,000 people following you on Instagram.
Yeah.
Today, it's 221,000. So that's gone up a lot.
Yeah.
But when did that start? Like, was that the same time as kind of the first seminar, or was that after the first few seminars? Because obviously, like, there's a lot of people trying to make Instagram work still, right? But obviously, like, it's happened up for you, and it's continuing to grow. And the thing I know about you as well is that the followers are actual followers. But I mean, how did it start? You know, like, what was the timing behind it?
Yeah, so I guess, well, to give you an idea, at the Olympic Games, I had 6,000 followers when I qualified for the Olympics. After the Olympic Games, I had about 12,000 followers. And then
that's all.
Yeah.
So the Olympics only gave you 6,000 more followers.
Only gave me 6,000 weightlifting. No one cares about weightlifting. So I guess I've had social media since like 2000, and I must have Instagram around 2008. So I've been I started with Twitter, I guess, and then went on to Instagram, as everyone does, and was using Facebook, and I was posting just training videos, and I was quite consistent. And, you know, that would be my first massive tip with anyone that's listening, that's trying to grow their Instagram, is consistency. It's so important on so many levels, but I was consistently posting and putting up my training stuff. I then dabbled in YouTube a little bit, and was posting longer format content of just training, not necessarily educational based stuff. And then one of the biggest things for me that made the biggest jumps was collaborating. So I would go out of my way to go and coach these people on Instagram that had a load more followers than me. So I'd say, look, let's meet up. I'll come to you. I'll teach you how to do Olympic weightlifting, and then we'll make a video, and then, you know, you post it. And that started to gain exposure for me and what I could do coaching wise. And then more and more people started to watch me. And then I continued to do that with other people, and the growth came in. That kind of adds credibility to you without doing anything. Yeah. Just by association. You know, even though that, you know, I might have thought I was the best coach in the world, I could have been the worst. But people were starting to follow me because he said, she said, he said he was good. Yep. He's hanging out with him, so he must be good. And that was one of the biggest things, I think, to get the growth. And then it definitely becomes a snowball point from that.
Yeah, right. And so you heard, so after the Olympics, you got 12,000 followers. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you do your first training that was basically on the weekend. Was that from Instagram, or was that just a person who you knew that said, hey...
Yeah, that was just from a person that I knew, yeah. Okay.
And the second, third, fourth, fifth, like, were they all people as well that you knew? That started
to then come through Instagram because I was showing on my Instagram that I was doing these seminars. People going, well, I want to do that at my gym. Can you come do my gym? So yeah, it definitely became from that, and the popularity grew through what people saw I was delivering on Instagram. And I'd make a massive point of showing, look, this was that person when they came to the seminar. This is them hitting a PB. And people go, well, I want to hit a PB, so they want to come. And then they create the demand. And I had very little competition at the time.
I think you still do not have that much competition, right?
No, there's probably, you can count on one hand the people that are doing the seminars that I do.
And so that was straight after the Olympics, right? And that's expanded over the last, what, was that 3 years ago now?
Well, yeah, I think I might have even done my first seminar maybe even before the Olympics, but with a friend. So,
yeah,
but yeah,
sure.
Over the majority of me doing them on my own and being a figure of doing them globally, over the last couple of years, 2-3 years.
So what are some of the tips to people who want to grow their Instagram profiles? And I know that you spoke about something before, but like if there were
Yeah.
3, 4, 5, 6 things. I mean, these are things that people are trying.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's so different now and so much harder for some of the reasons that I'll talk about in a moment. But I'd say for me, consistently posting, being genuine with your content and being unique. So many people try to copy other people's content because they're doing well, and people don't want to see the same thing. And one thing that I did to create clickbaity stuff that was going to go viral to get a lot of views was I'd do like I call it circus lifting, but I'd lift stupid weight, super heavy, and people would be like, I've never seen that done with a barbell, and it would get shared and it would get liked. So although that wasn't going to necessarily add any value other than entertainment to the person that was watching it, that became my in. So I'd say with whatever those of you that are listening do for business, for work, you need to think about a way of making your content clickbaity viral, even if it's nothing to do with what you want to sell someone. So I'll do them the circus thing, that gets them into my page, and then they go, oh, actually this guy knows lots of stuff about actual weightlifting and technical stuff. They watch some of my more sensible stuff that, yeah, it doesn't get the same interaction and the same viewing as the stupid stuff was, but then they get sold to on the back end. So for me, that was kind of like the best way to draw people in. I'd say getting the clickbaity, viral, unique stuff. I think everything nowadays that you put up on Instagram, it has to be high res, it has to be good resolution. You can't get away from, hiring a videographer. It pays, although it's that initial outlay. It took me a long time to realize that, spending a few £100 a month on getting high quality videos and getting it edited, it pays in the long run.
Absolutely. I've got to say, let's just put this in perspective, Sonny. I did have a look at your Instagram stuff, and I've seen some of your posts, and I've got to say your circus stuff is absolutely amazing. You get these, I don't know how much weight you've got on there, but you've got these barbell on you, like it looks like you've got like 120 kilos at least. It's on your chest, and you pop it up in the air, you grab it, and you flick it over your head, then you catch it like that. And I'm thinking,
and there's no hands, and then there's like a monster drink with no.
Yeah, but that's the thing, because no one else was doing it. That was my way of making the sport, I guess, a little bit fun and a little bit sexier. And that was the thing with weightlifting. And I suppose for a lot of people listening as well, what you might do work-wise might not be sexy, and it might not be the funnest thing. Weightlifting, stereotypically, you think guy coming out in lycra, a big sweaty ogre, lifts a huge weight you can't comprehend,
from the Ukraine.
And from the Ukraine or from the Middle East, doesn't speak English, and they walk off, and you're like, just cool, well, and there's nothing to relate to.
But what you've got is you've got quite a good formula, because you've got a background of being an Olympian, right? You've turned the shy kid that used to go on detention because they didn't want to hang out and do weights at first, come up and become more confident. But now what you've also realised is I'm going to be entertaining, I'm going to have some credibility behind me, but then you've got some substance as well behind you, where you've actually got the formula, you've got the science of how to do this, how to get a PB. Now, claiming that you're going to get a PB, because what I like about your post, I actually watched it through. When I first watched it, and I'll be honest, I go, who's this clown? But you were intriguing enough to go, I'm going to keep on watching. And by the end of the clip,
you learned something.
I learned something, and I actually went to your website.
Yeah.
I clicked on through. How do you do that? Because there's an art in that straight away.
Well, yeah, and it's definitely something that I've played around with and then gone back to. I always put like a clickbaity video at the start of the video. So it'll be me doing something silly or putting loads of weights on, and people go, oh, that looks heavy, just to get them interested. And then I go on to teaching them something interesting. So that was my way of making, weightlifting a little bit more fun, a little bit more interesting, but then selling to them afterwards, or not selling to them, but offering value in the post.
Well, in yours, it's an instant invite, because you actually, on your website, correct me if I'm wrong, you go to a landing page where you get to sign up on the email database, but you also give away some stuff for free, where it's that first session or something.
Yeah, well, you get a 7-day free trial with my academy, but that's something that I've thought about and played with a little bit as well, from a friend of mine who runs a very successful online academy similar. He had a free trial. I thought, okay, well, I'm confident in my product and what I've got on there, people will improve from. They do, but the thing that I've noticed is notoriously weightlifters are stingy and don't have a lot of money. So, you know, there's people jumping on, stealing the stuff and then not paying for it. And I think you're going to get an element of that with whatever you do.
Is that really business, you know, at the end of the day?
Well, you're probably quite high in weightlifting.
Probably.
But no, I think, you know, for me, I've always worried about that because when I first started, so the first online product that I sold, and I didn't have a clue what I was doing, but I had this PDF document that had my training on, and it was 6 weeks long. And I sort of played on the fact CrossFit's my biggest market, and that's who I sell to because they've got more money. It's a much greater, bigger audience, and
it's huge. Globally, it's huge. You got F45, you got CrossFit, and all that. And that's just
so I sort of tapped into that market. And I first of all had a 6 week strength program that was ideal for CrossFitters to do at the end of the open. They've sucked at the barbell work during the open, and I can help you now. Follow this 6 week training program. So my sales process was this. So they would send me a direct message if they wanted to get the program. They'd send me their email address. I'd then receive their email address. I'd send them email 1, which would be explaining the product. If they want the product, they send me back a second email. Then if I get that email, I then send them another email that goes, right, you need to send payment to this PayPal account. And then once you've sent the payment, send me a screenshot back, and then I'll email you the PDF. That was my process. And I was like, you know, in my first
this is
sort
pretty
of
cool though, you know.
It was so stupid, but I made like maybe £30,000, and I was like, I was processing 200-300 emails a day, pretty much by myself, back and forth, like, and it was. You know, it was terrible.
Until you found a shopping cart.
I didn't know any of this. I did not know anything. I knew PayPal and I knew how to send a PDF. It was.
I'm going to question everything, but I'm not going to question screenshotting replies.
That's gold.
Screenshot PayPal, everything. Like that was my confirmation because that was a quicker process than me going in, check the payment, landed. So that's what I did, and then I before actually, so I did that for quite a while, and I had this PDF document that I sold, and then this guy approached me that I was actually getting free food off. He was sending me my meal prep food, and he said, "Oh, I've got a friend that, you know, you should maybe speak to. He does ClickFunnels, and you know, I've seen your the way you sell your program, and I think he can help you." And I was like, you know what, it won't hurt to have a conversation, and that's something that I've always done, and I think we're sometimes scared to think because of the loss of the time to engage with people that could potentially help us. You know, whatever, he's just trying to sell me something. But you know, I thought I'll give anyone 5-10 minutes to see what he could say. And he said, "Look, Sonny, I've seen your program online. I think it can help you. We use this thing called ClickFunnels." I was like, "What the fuck's ClickFunnels?" And he said, "Look, just give me a couple hours, and I'll send you an email." And he sent me an email to a ClickFunnels where he'd just send me a few photos and a bit of text. And he sent me this sales landing page of like, you know, increase your lifts, enter your email address here. And then it was like all this information. I was like, wow, that's awesome. And then he was like, yeah, and it just automates everything. And I was like, what? Like, so I don't have to do the email thing. He goes, no, it takes the payment, that sends the program off. I was like, wow. And he was like, so have you got an email list? And I was like, no. And I was like, oh. And do you know what? I had a lady called Susanna Cole that was big into a property I used to PT at the time, and she was like almost like my mum, if you like. She's a very successful property developer in the UK, and she would constantly bash onto me, "Sonny, you need to start collecting these people's email addresses." And I was like, "Oh, but it's too much hassle. What's 20 email addresses gonna do?" And now I look back on it and think how many people to that point that I'd coached face to face that probably easily given me a further £40 after that day. And I think, you know, had had an email list, I probably would have made another 100,000 by now. But lesson learned, didn't have an email address. So I was like, no, I don't have an email database. So he created me then a page in which I could capture email addresses. And then I was armed with my ClickFunnels that was selling my strength program. And then I was armed with the email database. And he said, look, I'm just going to let you run with this for 3 months. I don't want paying a penny go away and see how much you made. And I tripled the amount of money that I was making in the first couple of months. I said, mate, this is amazing. I had all this extra hours. I didn't have to do anything. It was easy. So we were just working for free. And he goes, great. So then he was like, we'll build a portal. So then we had the login portal and then started hosting more programs and different things. And it's kind of gone from there. And I've developed more and more different styles of programs and stuff.
And this is all through ClickFunnels still, right?
All through ClickFunnels.
ClickFunnels, just FYI, like if you're listening out there, it's about $100 a month American. It just does all of it, you know. Like I think there's a lot of people out there who like think, oh,
need a website or
a website. I got to pay a developer. I got to do all these things. ClickFunnels will do it. There's a bit of playing around with it, but
it looks pretty sexy if you know someone knows what they're doing that's putting together. And it's definitely like there's so many people out there with huge followings and that could be making so much money if they realized they didn't need an app and they just needed someone that knew how to click funnels and knew how to run ads. It is ridiculous. And I was overwhelmed really with, you know, from making a few £1,000s a month to what I could make in such a short space of time by, you know, accessing my audience and being able to sell to them, understanding remarketing ads, marketing ads, full stop, and all of these different things that, I'll kid you not, a year ago, I didn't have my online academy. We started it in 2 weeks' time. I would have had my online business a year.
Oh, wow. Cool. And so like it's made a big impact to your lifestyle, I'm assuming, because you're in the UK and now you're in Australia, you know?
Yeah, so it's taken pressure off needing to necessarily travel to the seminars so much, like, and we definitely make a lot more money online now, but it's been so, I guess this first year has been so much learning and having an understanding, because like I said, I was a complete dummy to all of this stuff. Now I understand the importance of, you know, getting an email list and trying to get my email data from people, and we're building a really good list now. I now send like probably 3 marketing emails, 3 to 5 marketing emails a week, where, you know, there's always a call to action in it, but I'm giving people different lengths, sometimes just value around something that's happened in my day, or you know, a real hyper technical one that people will learn something technically in. And that's something that I've learned a lot about too, because I was learning how to email market from my friend who runs a much more general fitness-based academy. And he would write really quite funny emails or, you know, like lifestyle-y ones. And I was like, cool, I'll do the same. And my audience weren't picking on it like they were for him. And then I started writing more my own style stuff that was very weightlifting based, or if you do this you're gonna lift more, and people started engaging and started buying. And there's not just like a one set way that's gonna suit all, and you have got to play to your own audience.
So just on again, so many parts to that which I want to go into. I'll try and keep them condensed as possible, but because I've been subscribed to your email list now for a while, and you email 3 to 5 times a week. And they're all different stories that didn't lead to a call to action, but they're all different stories. And it's certainly like your voice, right? Like, are you writing them personally every single day?
Yeah.
And it's just like a one-time thing. And it's basically like that day written and sent off?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you definitely, when I'm in the rhythm of doing them, like I don't find it hard to write each day. But I've got terrible grammar and English skills. I'm dyslexic and terrible at spelling. And I was always worried about, you know, what I was writing down, and I was trying to conform to what I thought people needed to hear, which is why I feel like initially people thought it wasn't me writing them, because it wasn't in my authentic manner that I speak and deliver video. And once I got over the fact that, you know, okay, it's all right to write fuck on an email marketing, if that's what you would say.
And say it on a podcast. It's totally fine.
If that's what you would say. And all of a sudden, people were connecting more with my stories and what I was putting out, because I was being authentic with the way that I was writing. And it's still, I'm on an email marketing course at the moment that I'm learning, you know, how to be better at writing emails. And it seems a simple thing, but I can see my emails are getting better because I'm getting more replies. And I used to actually be like depressed if I'd spent a load of time writing this email and I'd open up my inbox in the morning and I didn't have one reply or one sale. And it's like, fuck, put so much time into that.
Yeah.
And
that's that pain again, right? That's that pain of, it's not the same as not getting into the Olympics, right? But it's still a pain. It's still, because this is like a thing that a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners, they face and they struggle with, right? Like you put all this effort into something and it just does nothing. Yeah. It just silence. And it's just constant until you figure something out.
Yeah. I'm finding it with YouTube at the moment. Like I've just started working with Adam to develop, YouTube and tap into that market, mainly because we want to run Google and YouTube ads over our own content. So we're starting to develop like the channel that we've got there and give people more long-winded videos. But then I've always found as well with YouTube, the people that make a lot of money on there is because people get to watch you for up to 15, 20 minutes every day, and they get to know you as a person. And you always want to spend money with someone that you feel you've got a connection with, or if I turn around to Alex and go, Alex, I'm selling this t-shirt, he's going, yeah, he's a good guy, I'll buy a t-shirt off him. And you have to kind of create that relationship with your followers as well, and YouTube's a great way to do it. But we got Adam on board now doing that. Yeah,
sure. And so how many hours a day are you spending on the business side of things? Because obviously you speak about like you're exercising still these days 2 to 3 hours a day, 7 times a week, or something like that. Is that right?
Yeah.
But how much are you spending on the business side of things, or are they just connected now?
Yeah, no, I still feel like I'm definitely juggling, and I think it goes back to something that we mentioned, Tony, earlier about you feel like you want to constantly be the one doing everything. And I put off on doing YouTube for ages because I was like, I need it to be perfect. I need to be editing it, And instead I've gone, right, Adam, I'll do it with you. Let's do a profit split. We've both got skin in the game. And, if it goes well, the time that you put into coming to video me and edit it is going to pay you out. It's going to pay me out. That's taken a shift off me that's going to make me money. With my business partner, we've got a profit split as well. And, the harder he works, the more money he makes, and likewise. So I started finally branching out and giving other people jobs that I didn't need to be doing. And I still find that very difficult, that I do want to reply to every email in the support. Whereas I don't need to be wasting an hour a day replying to support emails when, now we've got a girl, April, who will deal with people can't log in, and it costs us like $150 a week or something like that. That is far cheaper than the value of my time. And it took me a long time to get to that. I think now I finally got into a routine where I need to train for my sanity, and that's really important. And that allows me to capture my content, my videos for Instagram that's going to get people talking and keeping me current. And then I say I need to clear the support inbox, which probably takes me about 20 minutes. I then need to write a marketing email, which, today will be easy. I can write about the podcast, or, I could write about my training session earlier. So I'll do that.
Write about the podcast.
But, there'll be something, a lesson or something that I can kind of throw in today around what we learned or what I went through today that I can still somehow tie back to a call to action. So there's definitely a set things that I like to do every day, but it kills me, Dan, because going back to what you were saying about comparing yourself to people, I still look at other people in my industry that are doing similar things, not necessarily like competitors, but you go oh, it's 8 a.m. and this guy's already got up, he's done his live, he sent me his marketing email already and he's posted on Instagram. You're like, oh, I just got out of bed. So there's definitely that you shouldn't get too wrapped up into. I think you have to have your own routine that fits around your lifestyle. So I try and work from my working hours are probably from, I'd say 7 until 5, 6, and that's including my training. And with that spare time, I'll spend time on developing the academy. So developing more content to put online. And that's the thing that I think recently I've been missing out on, because you have this great content and after a while people want more, and if you don't give them more, they're bored. They'll go see someone else for that more.
Absolutely. I love the Sonny Webster Academy. I love this story. Your story's about perseverance and belief. That's what your business really is.
Yeah,
you've believed in yourself, doubted every now, but you've persevered for that goal. I want to know, what's the future for you and your business?
I think going forward now, like for me, my biggest goal has always been to leave the sport and the space that I'm in a better space than I found it. And personal goals of mine was always to make the sport more accessible, fun for people to use as a training tool. So that's a massive goal of mine. I've now shifted my focus. We've set up a charity called Lifting Dreams, where I'm building gyms in deprived areas. So our first project's in May, and we're building a gym in Soweto for these kids that are currently training in the rubble in an absolute terrible part of South Africa. Wow. And that's a huge project. That's extremely daunting for me because I didn't know the first thing about building a gym in a different country or running a charity full stop. Mm-hmm. And that's definitely something that I want to venture more in. I want to have, get the academy to a point where we've got thousands of people learning from the content that we're putting online. I still selfishly love to travel to deliver my seminars, to work with people face to face. We're running retreats in Bali where, I take people away teaching a weightlift, but I also show them how to have fun with it as well. So we take them out for beers, we take them to show them fun things as well. So yeah, I'm kind of putting my sort of stamp on the space, I guess, the lifting space. And yeah, who knows where it will go. I definitely have I don't see that being my only revenue stream going forward. I want to develop a clothing line alongside what I'm doing with my sport and apparel thing, not only just in the sports space as well, but in the more like mainstream stuff. And yeah, who knows? I'm open to investing, get involved in new projects that excite me, but one of the hardest things is time.
So yeah, I have so many more questions. What do you do to manage your time? Like, how do you, because obviously you've got all these things. You're starting to work with other people, what are some of the things which you're struggling with or which you're kind of figuring out is the best way to approach your days, approach your weeks?
Yeah, I think, the other day when you invited me on the podcast and you sent me a Google reminder in the diary, and I was
learned that the hard way,
I was like, damn, that's organized. And I don't even have like a set diary that, I follow by. I use sometimes my thing on my time management. And if I opened up my laptop now in my bag and you saw what my desktop looked like, it is.
I'm looking at Tony right now too.
Sonny, you and I have a lot in common, buddy.
Yeah, but it worries me a bit because I always think I know there's things that I need to do better in terms of managing, where things are saved, the time productivity, a calendar, not wasting time scrolling through Instagram, and I think that's definitely something that I need to improve on. I just try and set myself 1 or 2 key goals for each day. And if I achieve that, then in their spare time, then I'll start something else. But
that's gold.
Just have simple goals. And that's the same way I approach my training, Alex. Like, I don't try and go in and do 5 exercises and rush through them in an hour. If I've got one day to achieve one goal and I do it really well and I've executed it, that's probably better than if I go in with this huge list that leaves me 5-minute gaps in between each thing and I rush through a load of shit.
Can I ask a question? Do you still hang out with Jeff?
Yeah, I speak to him every single day. Really? And he still helps me with all of my finances, my accounts, business planning, everything. So he's a massive part of what I do for sure.
Yeah, that's so nice to hear because like normally you hear mentors come and go, but it sounds like Jeff's been there all the way, from this kid that goes, hey, who's Jeff? Yeah. Give me £500. You go, you know what you should have said? It was the 2020 Olympics you were going to. Yeah. 2016, that's what I would have carried it for. Yeah, well, it was meant to be just a 2012, so I got an extra 4 years out of him. But no, it's, I think definitely people should have mentors or should have people that they have, even if it's just to bounce ideas off from the outside. I was speaking to Alex the other day. That's definitely something that I want to spend time with speaking to him about because I know there's so much. What I'm doing is great and it's growing, but there's things that I could do better. And it's not getting disheartened by that. I think the first part of it all is recognizing it, and then just rather than trying to get everything sorted in one go, one thing at a time, and it's patience. And I don't know if it's just me, but I want everything to be better now, and I want
I'm super patient, aren't I, Tony?
Oh, look,
I'm like
Alex,
the most patient person. Look at Adrian looking at me going, geez, what a dude.
Yeah.
Just one more question, because because this was one before, and this is something which I just want to know as well now. You said before about content creation. Yeah. Like, and if anyone actually has a look at the profile on Instagram and also on the YouTube channel, but especially on Instagram, you pump out content every single day. You've got 10 to 20 stories.
Yeah, at least every day.
At least every day, and 1 to 2 posts. But before you said you want to spend time on production.
Yeah.
So like are you actively producing everything
as I go? Yeah.
Yeah. So what does kind of the setup look like? Is it just a camera? Like,
Okay, so
what's the setup look like?
I've got a really good tip as well, which I want to say before I forget it.
Yeah.
Do not be scared to recycle content, because that's something. If you spend time in creating something that's great and you post out, say I've got 220,000 followers from all over the world, I post it at 6 p.m. The people in Australia see it, and that's great. And sometimes maybe some people in the UK, but America is sleeping. And therefore that could be maybe 20% of my followers, even more. Like, say my post reaches half of my following. Great. That's half of your followers. That's 100,000 people that haven't seen that post. So I think, first of all, never be scared to repost something or reproduce something again. Sometimes in terms of my setup of filming my videos, for a long time it was just my phone. I now do have a nice camera, and in producing a video, I'll always find a nice, well-lit space. Audio, only 70% of, less than 70% of, sorry, let me get this right. 70% of Instagram is watched without the sound on.
Yeah.
But for the longer-winded stuff, having good audio's great. So getting a Rode Filmmaker set, spending time putting your videos through Rev to subtitle. That's something I still don't do yet, but it's definitely, when we're talking about
we use that service here too. It's great.
Yeah, what I need to do,
1 cent per word.
Yeah, but what I need to do to improve the content that I put out, well, I'd subtitle it if I could make it better. I edit mainly myself through Video Leap, because the importance of getting it
Is that on your phone?
I edit on my phone. It blows people's minds, because I've got a fancy laptop, nice camera, and then I basically take it off my camera, put it on my phone in like the highest resolution, and then down res it and cut it through on Video Leap, because it's quick.
Yeah.
I've got Final Cut Pro, all these fancy editing softwares that are extremely difficult to use unless you know what you're doing.
Right.
That for me, it's speed. And I know a lot of people will try and keep unity in the content that they post, so everything's the same and the colors fit. Do not worry about that, because the only person who cares about that is you.
Sure.
That's your own OCD. I will mix around fonts, text, formats in size just to play with it. And it keeps things guessing then, and you'll end up capturing someone that wouldn't normally look at your post because they just see something that doesn't look like your post. And for me, it's mixing up, not worrying too much about it. So I'd say.
And personal to professional, because you share a lot of personal stuff as well as professional stuff, right? And that again, this is a conversation I've had with Tony, right? Like, people are just scared to be themselves, to show the real stuff, So, but I see,
you've got to open,
especially with your stuff, you show a lot of kind of like raw, authentic, personal stuff.
How many people in the world can relate to lifting 180 kilos above their head? 0.01%. How many people can relate to going to the gym after a weekend on the booze and it's sucking? 60%. Great, odds are good, And when you have those relatable things for people to relate to, that's when, like I said at the start, people will start spending money and investing in you, because you're approachable, and you start drawing things that you've got in common with people, and then you're not all of a sudden this expert Olympian with all these followers. You're a very normal person that has a skill set that can be accessed very easily. And that's the kind of approach that you want to, for me, that I'm still working on. I've got so much to learn.
That's good. And just to put everything into context for people, how old are you?
25.
Yeah, it's 25 years old. So that's something. But you've managed to achieve what I'm still trying to figure out is kind of how do I make money on autopilot, from far away and travel, I still, I've told Adrian this a few times, so that was kind of how I've gotten into this space, and I still haven't achieved that thing, but I've achieved some other things, right?
Yeah, but
you've achieved something pretty damn awesome, at a pretty young age. So, I mean, you've got, quite a long way to go still.
You zigzag, but I even still see people that are a year or 2 years younger than me that are probably making more money, and that frustrates you. I'm like, damn.
Yeah, that's what you don't want to compare yourself to.
That's what you don't want to compare yourself to, because I was listening to this podcast today about this millionaire, and he didn't start his business until he was 30. So I'm like, well, shit, I've got a bit of a head start. I'll probably, by the time I get to 30, be in a better position than I am now.
You know how many people are going to be hating on you right now? Just because you've achieved so much success already at 25. But yet you still, it's still just the beginning for you.
It's just the beginning.
And you still feel like you haven't, right?
No,
that's
exactly.
what it sounds like talking to you right now.
Yeah, it's just you enjoying the process of learning and not getting frustrated. And I'm excited to what's come next.
Yeah, what's success look like for you?
I think it's definitely shifted for me now. What I deem as success, there's different values that I've got now. I always used to thought you could deem success by having 10 million in the bank account, but experience for me now is so much more valuable than I ever realized. All the time to travel, to spend times and share experience more than anything. I spent so much of my life traveling and experiencing all these amazing things that I don't want to share it with. So for me now, that's definitely a very important value, as I deem a successful trait of something that I'd want. I think, you can only get that if you're successful in your business and it work for you and make you more money. So, you get to put energy into the things that excite you, and, ultimately giving back now and changing other people's lives. I was very lucky to have met Jeff, and he helped me achieve my dream. Now I want to see if I can do something else, and I want to be the one that, help someone else achieve their dream, because it doesn't matter how much money you've got, that feeling, I'm sure, is priceless, know.
Awesome, mate. You have been so inspirational to talk to, and I love it that you've given your time today, because I know you're a very busy person.
No,
you really are. Mate, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on board, so thank you so much.
Thank you both.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's been a good chat.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening to the Growth Manifesto podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please head on over to iTunes and give us a 5-star rating. For more episodes, please visit growthmanifesto.com/podcast.